Hello, my name is Darren Morgan. I'm the head teacher of Kings Road Primary School. We felt it would be interesting for us to put on our website a recording of our school self-evaluation document. Anyone can watch it, that's why we put it on our website, but we had particularly in our mind Ofsted. We're due an Ofsted, and we would hope that an inspector who comes across it would spend what I think might be about half an hour to allow us to go through the self-evaluation document. We think this is important because we think we are outstanding. And I don't say that arrogantly at all. I just think we have a school full of exceptional talent, really. The children are a dream to work with. And every single member of the staff is superb, has a superb attitude, really dedicated, really talented, offers the children the very, very best education that's possible. When we go through the Ofsted handbook, we think we can evidence that. And that's why we've put some time and effort into this process to help. So what I'm going to do now is I want to share the screen and hopefully I can show you our self-evaluation document. And my plan is to go through just very quickly, really, and explain it. So it's a long document. And I think everybody comes across this document first says, gosh, that's a long document. But when you dig into it, I think it's a useful one. There's lots of graphs. It's misleadingly long, I think, when you look into it. Well, there's other documents that I've put on that I'd encourage you to look at. I've put our school development plan on there. And then I've put two appendixes to this. So one is outcomes since our last inspection, to have a look at that. And then the second one is a report on a safeguarding concern that is reported to Ofsted a few years back. The curriculum handbook is worth a glance, as is a document called our handbook of memorandum of understanding. So every curriculum lead has written this memorandum of understanding, which looks at their subject and also identifies the health of their subject in relation to Ofsted terms. So now I'll spend some time going through our self-evaluation document, which you can see is 66 pages currently. I think what I want to highlight on this page is the challenges that we have in terms of getting high outcomes from our pupils. You'll see that our EAL is 81.1% and our ethnic minority is 96.6%. When you compare EAL with national, it's 4 times as many. Now, it is an absolute privilege working in this school. It's a privilege working with the children who come from so many different nations. I think it's around 35 different countries and around nearly 40 different languages are spoken. And that's varied according to the NASIA scale. Some have a really great fluent grasp of English, but some are very new to English. That comes with our challenges. And I would argue that it's 4 times more challenging than the average school. This is our model of our school development plan. So what we say is that the action plan's at the bottom of our foundation. And we've got some unique features in there that I think I'll come back to later, which include MAD. So our school is MAD. That means that we want to make a difference. We've chosen to be healthy. For instance, this morning's assembly, I talked about that. But then this bit here, this boo-boo, with the Team KR badge in the middle. So boo-boo stands for individuality. Be you, whoever you are, whether you're an introvert, whatever your heritage, your background, your likes, your dislikes, all those kind of things, they are who you are. Whether it's staff, children, parents, governors, great. But bring that individuality into us, and that's us as the wider team, and that's that Team KR. We ask children and parents and staff, to choose to be part of Team KR. So to choose to be part of Team KR, the principles that everybody has to really take on board are loyalty and pride and respect and sacrifice and commitment. Then we've got these 3 kind of building blocks. So they're the governor's involvement. And then these above are our SDPAs. They stand for our school development priority areas. Every year, the SLT go out and spend a day really examining anecdotal information, data information to come up with what we think should be our priorities for the year going ahead. Currently, they are writing, vulnerable pupils, attendance and punctuality, and early reading. And then we think if that's the case, then we can hopefully aim for excellence without compromise. Reach for the stars is kind of tagline that's been associated for the school for about 20 years. So the overall effectiveness, the quality and standards of education at Kings Road, we think are outstanding. We understand how difficult it is to aim to get to outstanding, but that's what we're aiming for. And I've put here that Kings Road, according to the Ofsted criteria, is outstanding as there is a deep-rooted and ambitious approach from all members of the school community to provide a nurturing, safe and exceptional experience. The ethos and atmosphere in the school is tangibly welcoming, and I hope you will feel that when you visit. Teaching and learning from all teaching staff is of the highest possible calibre, and the curriculum is specific to our school. It's been designed across the whole board, so the wider curriculum, which we call Ignite, and our reading and our writing and our maths is so specific to our specific children. I hope that when you come, you'll experience a magical atmosphere here. Everybody is so warm and welcoming. The children's attitude is superb. And I've got to say from an early point, governors are a big part of that. So the governors have got the heart of the school. They're part of Team KR. They challenge us, but they're part of that team and they support us at the same time. So because of that, we've got this mix of support which allows us to move the school forward. We were shortlisted for School of the Year in 2018 and 19. I've said that the strengths are ethos and culture, pupils' attitudes. We have this wider offer. We're always doing something brilliant. So Manti the Expert, King's Got Talent, Difference Day. We think, I don't mean me, we think leadership across the school is really good, and we think the provision for English as an additional language is also great. We still think that we're not perfect. We think there's things to work on. I think that's part of being outstanding. We think that some curriculum areas still need to be developed further. We want to further embed implementation and intent and implementation of systems regarding the impact. We think they're good, but we want to keep focusing on that. Now, we know that the main area is quality of education, and you can see that we've highlighted this. If you go through the document, you will see this. However, what I want to focus on is the evidence. So the headlines for quality of education, we think the Ignite curriculum is great. We think the curriculum leadership and ambition in terms of what we want for our pupils, standards of teaching and learning are just so high. I can't impress that upon you enough. When we go round, or when you go round and see the school, the teachers are just second to none. Now, there's areas to develop. So I go in every class every day and try and be helpful and identify what areas are great, what areas for development in a non-threatening manner. And I can just see that it's so strong. We think strategic leadership is high, and we think provision for English and additional language and SEN is good. The areas that we want to develop are continuing to develop transition to high school. We want to improve the proportion of pupils attaining expected in writing across the school and improve outcomes for pupil premium children after the effects of COVID. We see our results. So I want to come back to this 81% EAL, 96.6% ethnic minority. So it is about the EAL, but it's more than that. It's about what comes with EAL. And I'm quite confident I can argue that our parents are wonderful, are wonderful, but there are unique barriers to our families. And that's seen in things such as our performances and parents' evenings are pretty much 100%. Yet attendance, and I'll talk through this later, it's just so difficult for us to get up. For instance, we have curriculum events. That's pretty close to 0%. We have fewer than 10 parents, despite huge marketing of them and different ways of marketing. This chart shows where it's green, it compares favourably against national, and where it's reddy browny, it compares less favourably with national. And again, on the back of COVID, back of the challenges of EAL, we're really pleased with that. We're really pleased with that. And the chart here shows which are comparative strengths, statistical strengths, and which are comparative statistical weaknesses, of which there were 4, and many more strengths. There's a few things I think I should pull out from this. So we really measure progress very carefully as we do attainment across the whole school, and we have our own systems for doing that. So the charts you can see in front, the amount of data that's behind that is massive. Now, I know that that's not high on the agenda for Ofsted at the moment, and completely accept that. But for us, it's important, and I want to spend a minute explaining what we do. So we have something called mapping and attainment grids, where we identify children, how well they're doing in relation to expected, greater depth and emerging or mastery. We identify pupil premium, we identify T20, so their T20 we've decided in our school. And T20 in our case means the bottom attaining 20%. We also identify who is new to the school or new to the key stage, and I identify who is under attaining and over attaining. And then we put that information in something called tracking and progress grids. And then there are hundreds of graphs that I design that really, analyzes the rate of attainment and the rate of progress for all the different features within the school. I'd love to show it to you, and I will do, but I understand it's not high on your agenda. So I've decided not to include the termly data, but we do this every term. And what's here is from last year. So the rate of progress and our system, we want the children to make 3 KPS, Kings Road Point Score progress. But actually last year, the average was 5.68 from years 1 to 6. And this breaks down, so we can see in maths, the average rate of progress was 5.82. In writing, it was 5.61, and in reading, it was 5.59. That information is on the top right graph. The column to the right says where you can obtain further information. So that's just contacting the school, and we will share that information for you. I've taken just one of the, in this case, line graphs that we have a look at, and this looks at the trajectory of progress and compares against previous year groups. So we can see on this one that the trajectory of progress, because it's the end of the year, the 2021 data, the progress was good last year, compared favourably with previous year groups. The next set of graphs looks at ARE, so that's children working at age-related expected. A bit later, it'll be greater depth. And we can see that there's a whole huge amount of information behind each of these bars. So I've just done these for Christmas, but as I said, this is the end of last year's data. And we can see that at the end of 2022, 72% in year 6 got to expected in reading. We're aiming to try and get back up to 2019 levels, and we've given ourselves a 3-year strategic plan. And just looking at the Christmas information at the moment, we're on track. We're doing well in nearly all areas. There's some areas that we just need to prioritise, and SLT tomorrow is where we're going to really unpick that information. But then we can compare the proportion of children with 2021, with 2019, and how they were doing at Easter and how they were doing at Christmas. And I've just done the Christmas data for this year, 2022, and I can now compare that with 21. And actually, the Christmas data is higher than 21, so we're on a trajectory for a greater proportion of children in year 6 getting to age-related expected. And we can see that information for year 5, year 4, year 3, year 2, year 1, and that's the same in writing, it's the same in maths, and it's the same level of data for greater depth. And later on, you'll see that we do the same in pupil premium. This next chart looks at phonics. And we can see before COVID that phonics was really good. We're really pleased with it. And then for our school, we dipped to 77%, and then national 76%. And that was after COVID. And I'll come back to this 81%. For our children to get to these results, the amount of effort that has to go in is astronomical. The amount of effort, the amount of dedication, the amount of strategy that goes into it. Next bit begins to look at GLD. The reason I've got these 2 graphs here is these were, I think we had 3 areas highlighted in the 2018 inspection. So I wanted to just talk through how we're doing in these areas. It's this, and then it is GLD. So it was looking at writing specifically, and then it was also attendance. This is pupil premium, how well pupil premium did last year. And then these charts show that I talked earlier. What I do is I analyse every single child's rate of progress, and then I report it back to the teachers each term. And every child who we think may have made less than expected progress, we unpick. And it's not threatening, it's fine. Everybody's working as hard as they can, but it's about focusing and really seeing what strategies we can put in place for them. This is the overall data, but we break down to individual teacher stuff. This is the pupil premium data, which you can see here. We want to look at the offer that's provided at Kings Road, our Ignite curriculum, which has mainly been designed by Claire Walls. We think is really good, really strong and specific to our pupils. We think it's embedded. There's a bit about preparing the children for the next phase of education. It's quite a lot we do with the incoming schools, particularly Stretford High, that's our closest school. And they've said that they can tell Kings Road pupils have a good relationship with them. We do a lot for our specific cultural capital, which I'm sure I'll talk through, and our reading and phonics. We have something in our school called a pupil premium promise. And that's that every child whose pupil premium gets 90 minutes extra support in terms of reading, writing and maths. On top of that, every half term, there's a pupil premium enrichment pledge. And that's where the children do an enriching activity and they have a discussion during that activity to try and draw out quality language from those children. The foundation stage pupil premium pledge is similar, and they have these experiences that we want the children to enjoy during their time in foundation stage. I've talked earlier about the memorandum of understanding. This is really important. So again, I'm just blessed to have the teachers that we have in this school. So they've all written a memorandum of understanding, and then they've updated that, and that's what's on the website. Is nearly 100 pages. And I know you're not going to read all those pages, but I want you to look at it if you get a chance, because that demonstrates the dedication and the curriculum offer that we have. Now, part of that is we have evaluated our subjects in line with the Ofsted handbook, and we've asked our parents what we think of the subjects. We've asked the children, but in a slightly different format. They didn't quite match here. So what we asked our children were to identify their 3 favourite subjects and the 3 subjects that they learn the most. Their 3 favourite subjects, interestingly, were PE and art and maths, I think it was. And the subjects that they learned the most from, the top of that list was maths, which I found really interesting. Reading was really high on that as well. I'm going to have to cough, excuse me. So this next few pages say where our self-analysis and our parental analysis of all of our subjects are. We have a curriculum handbook, which I've put on the website as well. So all new members of staff get this. And this talks about expectations with regard to all the subjects. There's a copy of our Ignite planning. And this is a copy of our planning. So this is the English plan. We have a maths plan as well. Below here, you see an anonymised mags. That's our mapping and attainment grid, which I talked about before. So I go through every line and then I report it back to the teachers. And then myself and Leah, every term, she's the deputy, meet with the teachers in something we call a tracking and progress meeting and go through each pupil and in terms of, it's okay if they've not made great progress. We understand that there's lots of variables for that, but what can we do to affect them in the future? FFT5, so we try to set targets in relation to the top 5% for writing and at the top 20% in maths and reading. Here's an example of the tracking and progress grid. So you can see that we set a target at the end of every term, at the end of every year, and we consider where the data is there, Fisher Family Trust, and we record our follow-up actions. We've just designed a new foundation assessment tool, and we call it our foundation. It's FIT, improvement tool, and science. So up to that, we were doing these impact things, which were great, but I felt they were a bit cumbersome. So we just narrowed them down a little bit. We have something called our T20 acceleration program. So we have extra provision in place for all, not just reading, but writing and maths, all of our children, what's in place for them. And here's an example of what the teachers then report back to me. I think we've used the tutoring well. One example is what I've done here is I've just briefly recorded the rate of progress for the children who's tutored. And you can see at this time that not tutored, I think it was the middle of the year, for reading was 4.44. So that was at the end of term 2, whereas actually the reading tutored here was 14%. So it's nearly over 300% improvement, which is the impact of the tutoring. We chose to do the tutoring ourselves. So TAs and teachers tutored our children, which I felt, because we knew our children, that was the better way of doing it. And actually, evidently, it was. So what we've got here is looking at the standard of teaching. So I go in every class every day. And then on a Wednesday, the deputy accompanies me and we go a bit more slowly. And then we discuss what we've seen and how we can help people. We make it a practice that all NQTs join us within the first 2 weeks and we talk about what's going on in the school. And then furthermore, we're open to anybody and anybody can come and join us. Sometimes members of the SLT join us, sometimes other phase leads and area leads join us. So we can, excuse me. So the rate of teaching, this is me really. So I've tried to make it statistical and measurable. So anything below, not above, below 1.5 is outstanding. Anything above 1.5 and below 2.5, we deem as good. So this is just for the summer term 2 last year, and it's 1.28, so it's outstanding. And this breaks down the phases. So at that point, all of the different phases in terms of their behaviour, their learning, their teaching, I felt was outstanding. This is staff views on teaching. So staff views, 72% strongly agree that teaching is good, and the other 28% agree that teaching is good. I asked the children what they viewed about the curriculum, and that's these charts here. Here's that thing I was talking about before. Which 3 subjects do you learn the most in? So first was maths, second was writing, actually, and third was reading. So our children think they learn the most in those subjects. But don't forget, I asked them to rate their top 3. So it could be that they feel they make great, they have great learning in everything, but they were the top 3. We've developed, I think, a world-class system of writing called the Royal Write, and that affects the marking, the input, the rewards that we give to them. We have something called Sveric, which is our own acrostic for teaching reading, and that includes the assessment of reading. And then we had our ruler of reasoning for maths, and actually, hot off the press, that has just changed to CAPE. So the children used to get a ruler, but actually, as of the next celebration assembly, which we have, the children will be awarded a CAPE. And now for them, it's about them understanding the maths and explaining it. But for us, it focuses our minds on concrete, abstract, pictorial, and then the evidence. And that's why it's called CAPE. It's about really trying to focus the teacher's minds on what it is we're teaching these children. Children in year 6 learn to play the keyboard. Children in year 5 usually learn to play the recorder. However, our recorder teacher is currently off on maternity leave. And then year 4 learn to play the ukulele. There's loads of peripatetic lessons as well. We have our own art teacher. She's off currently on maternity as well. She doesn't play the recorder as well. So we've got somebody else doing that at the moment. PE, we have a great PE provision. So we have a PE teacher, and he focuses on sport. And then the other areas are cricket, dance, and OAA, and swimming and gymnastics are taught in class. One of the main highlights of the school is Man to the Expert. So that's where the whole school for 1 week can learn, 1 week a year, learn through a thematic approach. And it's all about role playing and a reason behind. So in their imaginary world, if there's a consequence, so they break a window, we have to explore that. The most recent one was called Voyage of Discovery. And that's where the children travelled in a TARDIP, which is a bit like a TARDIS, but in this case, it's called Time and Relative Dimension in Place, around the history of the world, including into the future. Now, I'm not going to risk anyone finding out what this is because we keep it a secret to the children, but this is the next Man to the Expert, and it's Tournamentum, and that's Latin for tournament. That's what I'll tell you. We have an Eisteddfod every year. We have a really extensive model of communication for our parents. In addition to our, lots of schools have dojo and different systems. We have Mr. Morgan's tea parties where we invite the parents in once a term and hear what their views are and tell them about what we think and why we're doing the things that we're doing and our rationale behind it. Additionally, myself and Miss Grimsley are out on the gate every day, and that's where we can meet with the parents. And then the teachers open their doors 5 minutes early. And the idea behind that is that they can meet with the parents as well. And if there's any issues, we tackle them while they're really small. I've put some of the parents' views from our survey in 2022. So that there, the first one, Kings Road, is a good school. So that shows us that 98%, I think it is, of our parents think that our school is a good school. So that's great. Most of them think our children are making good progress, think the teaching is good. Would you recommend this school to another parent? 98% said that they would recommend it to another parent. Loads of achievements. So we were twice shortlisted for Greater Manchester School of the Year. We got a National Writers Award. According to the judges, came second in Head Teacher of the Year. That was in 2017. We've got the Quality Mark, and that was renewed in 2019. We got School of the Year for Sport in Trafford. We've got additional awards for sport, loads of awards. Take One Book is something we do every year. So that's when the whole school's learning is based on one book. So, excuse me. So last year, I think it was based on a book by Greta Thunberg, about Greta Thunberg, which obviously the learning came from that. So everybody uses the same book, but extracts different learning from that book in different language. I've put on our next steps, so the things that we want to focus on going forward. So this should be a bit more brief now. Thank you for your time if you've kept with me. So the next part of our set looks at behaviour and attitudes. We think we're really good on this. So honestly, I don't mean this to come egotistical. I don't mean me, I mean we as a school. I think the behaviour and attitudes of the pupils in our school are just superb. And I think that's because our parents are great, because our pupils are great. And I do distinguish between good behaviour and outstanding behaviour, but also the teachers in this school, their behaviour management is absolutely superb. The 5 key strengths we think are ethos and atmosphere, pupils' behaviour in class, school's moral education. So assemblies and the stuff in class is of the highest calibre. Pupils' attitudes towards their learning is superb, and I've got the evidence to show that. And pupils' commitment towards helping others is superb. So a lot of our pupils are Muslim, and it seems that that's something that's taught in the mosque as well, and part of the Quran. And then obviously the rest of the pupils, our Hindu pupils and our Sikh pupils and our non-religious pupils, they share those values. We want to improve parental attitudes towards attendance, punctuality, and children's independent skills. We want to increase consistency of approaches from midday assistance, and we want to increase parental attitude towards pupils' learning. We think we're outstanding because children's behaviour and attitudes are exemplary. There are occasional instances of unacceptable behaviour, which are handled positively and fairly. The children listen attentively, engage fully in lessons and throughout the school, and show a high level of care for others. Attendance is the big issue for us. So attendance came up in our last Ofsted report. That was one of the 3 areas. It was GLD, it was reading, and it was attendance. So we can see the 21-22 data, and our attendance was 92.1, whereas national was 92.8. All I can tell you is the amount of work we do on attendance, we are not blasé about this at all. I've invested in another member of staff as part of the attendance team. We've got our attendance officer. You'll have seen earlier that our excellence committee, so that's a team of volunteers who want to be involved in strategic leadership, pretty much a middle leadership tier. They've focused on attendance. Last year it's a different excellence committee with a different chair, and they focused on attendance as well. We are driven to try and get our children in school. And I guess what I'm reflecting on is, when I talk about EAL, it's not just language. There's more to it than that. We don't really have bullying. So we do have, I guess we do have examples of bullying, and we pick up on that really quickly. We support the victim and we support the perpetrator. We involve the parents all the time, and I always report it back to parents. To governors, should I say, as I do FGM, as I do any sexual harassment or peer-on-peer abuse. The staff here, you see staff views, so 100% of people agree that we deal with bullying well. They're the staff in school. And then 100% of staff feel that we deal with racism well. When I go around school every day, I make a judgment BLT, and that stands for behaviour, learning and teaching, and then record it in this grid that I've designed. And you can see from this grid here, I just think behaviour is outstanding. So we can see a couple of oranges, which is good, but it's still low good in terms of it's nearly outstanding, and the number is lower, 1.55. If that was 1.49, it'd be outstanding. We just are very blessed with the children we have in our school. We have leaders throughout the school in terms of the children. We can see a copy of our behaviour policy. Like so many other things we do, this is specific to us. We've got what I think is a really good behaviour policy, which has been updated in line with the white paper. Staff views on behaviour. So 96% say that behaviour is good. And then we see here this blue, and that's because somebody put a note there. Behavioural issues are dealt with immediately in the school, thus resulting in good behaviour. So that was other. Parents feel behaviour. So the parents, so 4794, 96% think behaviour is either strongly agree that behaviour is good. And then school makes sure its pupils are well behaved. When we asked, 93, 94% either strongly agreed or agreed with that. We have charters for our lunchtime, and the charters are slightly different in the different places. So at in the dining hall, the new hall, the old hall, or outside. When we look at personal development, we think it's outstanding. We think it's outstanding because the school offers a varied and thorough package for the personal development of the children, and this is fully embedded. Our key strengths, we think, are celebrating equality and diversity. Whole school themes, including Boo-Boo, and I can't remember if we've talked about Boo-Boo, but Boo-Boo stands for individuality and bringing that individuality into the wider team. Team KR, I think I've talked about, choosing to be remarkable, mad, make a difference, excellence without compromise. Beverley Award is an award we give at the end of every term for an outstanding attitude. And we've got we think our school values are fully embedded throughout the school. Man to the expert is really important in our personal development. We have extra opportunities for children, including the hub. So the hub is a place where children can go if they're feeling stressed or concerned and want to speak to somebody. In actual fact, I think our offer for mental health is really strong. We also have a grandparents' afternoon every year where we invite the grandparents in. We've got to rethink that next year because it's so popular. And our commitment of staff towards the children and each other is just exemplary. We have 3 areas that we think of for development. We want to aid parents to provide healthy lifestyles for their children. We want to ensure British values are consistently embedded, so it is, but we just think that's something we can continue to work on, and ensure that 25% of clubs that are full are made up of vulnerable pupils. That's in place now. These are our values, which we think are embedded through the school. We do King's Got Talent once a year, and that's about showcasing other abilities that the children have. We have a strong extracurricular. There's Boo-Boo, there's Be Healthy, there's Team KR, and there's MAD. I've talked about the fact that myself and Miss Grimsey meet the parents every day, as do the teachers. Excellent provision of sport by Mr. Conley, and that's at lunchtimes as well. Jo Whiteside is our family and children's mentor, and she's brilliant, absolutely passionate for the children. Our safeguarding team is myself, Jo Whiteside, Leah Grimsey, and Alison Wrigley. We also have one of our teachers, Natalie Ross, as part of our safeguarding team. So we call it CPT, and we meet once a term. And then Natalie acts as kind of an advisor because she was a social worker. We can see the parents' views on this area, pupils' views on this area. The assembly themes are really carefully considered. We have something called a determination, which means it doesn't have to have a Christian focus, which is given to us by the local SACRA. And that's understanding the challenges, I guess, that we have in a term, as well as all the benefits that come with having such a diverse demographic in our school. We've changed our homework. So once every half term, or one half term is normal homework, and the other half term is Mr. Morgan's award scheme. And you can see that that's about these values. It's about getting our children to promote values in them that will help them to be successful in life and enrich their learning. And we do them 3 times a year for a whole half term. We think that leadership and management is outstanding. Leaders are very ambitious for King's Road to achieve excellence in all areas for all members of the school. That's children and adults. The SLT is a very strong aspect of leadership at King's Road and are ambitious for all members of the school. The excellence committees are fundamental aspects of school improvement. The governors, and I have to say in particular Peter, who's our chair of governors, are dedicated to supporting and challenging the school for the benefit of all. Curriculum leaders, as evidenced in the memorandums of understanding, lead their subjects well and communicate their strategy for development to governors, parents and leaders within the school. You can see the strengths are school vision, values and ethos, SLT, CPD. The CPD offer in the school is superb. We have 5 SLEs and the CPD that's offered within, in-house, it couldn't be bettered. And we do offer support for other schools as well. Curriculum leadership is strong, and I think safeguarding is strong. Three areas for development. We want to maintain high standards of wellbeing, continue to provide regular opportunities for staff views, and continue to support opportunities for middle leaders. Evidence, I've talked about CPD. So CPD is strong. We also offer training Tuesdays. So every Tuesday afternoon, we ask the TAs to come off timetable and we support them with their CPD, which in turn uplifts them and upskills them, but also helps the children because we're uplifting them things such as phonics or benchmarking and those kind of things. We work really hard on staff wellbeing, really hard. I've listed some of these things here. So we allow teachers to take their PPA at home. At the last Friday of every half term, all staff are invited to enjoy breakfast together. All support staff are invited to have coffee and cake together in the final training Tuesday. Staff are encouraged to attend their own children's events. We have an annual awards evening. We have an annual quiz. We have regular special events such as movie nights and meals together. We have guardian angels, and that's where we draw a random name out of a hat. The person who it is doesn't know we've drawn them, and we're trying to secretly look out for them, helping them with display or helping them when they're in need or giving them stuff to try and encourage them. We've massively reduced marking because we think consultation is an effective way of providing pupil feedback. And I guess EEF supports that, but that also supports teachers' wellbeing. We've stopped emails after 7 p.m. I've dramatically reduced reports twice to really pinpoint what's useful and not this onerous task that's just wordy. And also considering our EAL families. SLT are very supportive to our staff. We've got counselling available if they want it, occupational health. We have events such as disco table tennis on a Friday after school. Teachers receive a day off isn't strictly true. So it's a day at home every half term. And we call that a day for a day. So the TAs cover and then they get some payback and the teachers get time to lead their subjects. That's why things such as a memorandum of understanding is so well. Teachers, and we call that headspace, but TAs get headspace as well. And that's so our training Tuesday model now is one is input, one is headspace. We've appointed curriculum coaches, which are members of the SLT, to take the pressure off our curriculum leaders. Mentors appointed to support staff with their well-being. We've had pamper days in the past, supervision purchased for some members of staff, and I'm relaxed towards deadlines. No problem if people can't meet deadlines. Performance management is really thorough and positive. Here's an example. So we talked earlier about the mags and some of the data that I do, and you saw some of the graphs. Well, this is what the teachers get. So every term, every teacher gets this. And in the tracking and progress meeting, we talk it through. Again, in some non-threatening way. Well, is there any groups of pupils that have not made great progress? What can we do about it? What strategy can we put in place? We thoroughly invest in new appointments. So we meet them all before, we do a circle time, we really obviously read all the applications thoroughly, and the interview process is very values-based. As I say, I visit every staff, every class, every day. My head teachers report to the governors are really thorough and transparent and no holds barred. Everything is out there. Here's an example, but you can have that at request, on request. Governors are great. We have a full understanding of the strengths and areas of development in our school. There's loads of collaboration. So we work a lot with other schools. I sit on an advisory board. I was asked to sit on advisory supporting traffic safeguarding, who recently had an inadequate judgment. We're waiting to hear the outcome of the latest Ofsted report. So maybe that's moved up to requires improvement. I don't know as I sit here. I'm a trustee for something called the voluntary sector. I mentor 2 head teachers. Lots of our SLT support training for ECTs. In fact, I think all year 1 ECTs in Trafford is provided for by myself or Leah. I'm an Asia, that stands for an Associate School Improvement Advisor for the schools. Going further down this list, Senko supports other schools. The curriculum lead regularly leads other training for the schools. That's Claire, which I've talked about. We've got SLEs. I think I've duplicated this. I'm sorry about that. That's what we give to the teachers. We carefully track what we would deem to be potentially vulnerable pupils. Our safeguarding is strong. So we give, you can see this induction process. Before anybody starts, we make sure the top level is completed and then the bottom level is completed within a week of them joining the school. And then early years is so strong. So it's led by just a brilliant teacher in Vicky. She's a brilliant leader. And then we've got Lisa and Andrew, our foundation stage, our reception teachers. They're definitely outstanding. We've got a brilliant nursery stage with Emma and Raj. And then all of our TAs are just so focused and dedicated on our children. So we grade our early years offer as outstanding, and that's due to the leadership, the teaching of early language, teaching and learning, children's behaviour, attitude and outcomes. And we think our areas of development are to continue to embed the nursery, develop the use of observation systems in school to gain parental voice, help parents to increase their children's independent schools. The first bit talks about outcomes, which we think are high. Again, just consider how our children come. 81% EAL, 97% ethnic minority, and all the stuff that comes with that. Yet the progress they make and the attainment at the end of the year, we're delighted with. The new curriculum is fully embedded throughout foundation stage. There's strong intervention in place. We have a real accurate picture of strengths and weaknesses, and that's partly due to Vicky, partly due to myself and Leah going in every class. When I go in class every day, and Leah comes with me on Wednesdays, we identify needs very early and address them. Safeguard and child protection is strong. Quality of teaching is high. Assessment processes are good. We do a lot of work for parents and carers, so lots of meetings to try and support them. Behaviour is good. We've got that pupil premium pledge, so the early years pupil premium pledge, which I've talked about. We use Welcome, and we now use Twinkle Phonics, which is embedded, and we're pleased with how that is going. And I've talked earlier about our appendix. So thank you for listening to me. Any questions, please ask me.